This
from one of
conference
my
will
students.
now be recorded.
Okay.
Might please start.
Okay. So in our last class, we discussed about instances and have gone through the instance creation wizard. So yeah, let's actually create an instance and then look at what properties get attached to it and what are the other things that come along with an instance. So I'm going to start with the Linux instance and then we'll do a Windows instance as well. So yeah, same thing, right? Just come the open EC2 service under instances. Even in the dashboard, you'll find this launch instance button. So you can click anywhere. And here I'm going to select the Amazon Linux 2 again. And then I'm going to go with the T2 Micro. So the free tier eligible. I just need one instance, so just going to stick to that. Sorry. With respect to storage, the 8 GB is the default root disk that is being assigned. I think I'm good with this. I don't need additional data file systems. I'm just going to go with what comes as a default. Let's add a name to it. Let's call it Linux. Okay, here we want to define which ports and which IPs to allow access, right? So what we are defining here basically is a inbound rule. So with security groups, outbound rules are allowed by default. So your firewall has inbound and outbound, right? Inbound is what is coming in from outside. So what is coming from outside, let's say in this case, my desktop to Amazon EC2 instance, that's the inbound traffic because Amazon EC2 is um, is in the focus, right? So whatever coming into Amazon is inbound traffic. What is going outside of Amazon is outbound traffic. So with security groups, outbound traffic is allowed by default. Okay, so whatever rules we are defining here for ports and IP addresses is all for inbound only. Okay, so I'm saying that I would like to allow port 22 for any IP. So this source means anyone 0000/0 means anyone in the world can connect over port 22 to my EC2 instance, but that doesn't mean they can log in, right? Because they need to have the key pair. But from a port network standpoint, I'm allowing everyone. Or I can say I will only allow, maybe my public IP. I can do that. But I would like to keep it to everyone to make it simple. So this part is indicating the IPv4 and this part is indicating the IPv6. So both is allowed.
My the you have selected the my IP. So that IP is
Hmm.
your desktop IP.
That's right.
But have you tried to find this IP in your desktop? Because I cannot find the public IP in our laptop.
In Mac, I don't know how to check that, but there are like tools that you can check online. What is my IP.com, I think, and then they will give you your public IP.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Because we have the private IP address, but we cannot find the public IP. That public IP is given
because
by the our ISP router, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one question here, if one we have one router and three devices are connected to it, when we switch on the
Okay.
router, the ISP will provide one public IP address to one router, right? And we
Yes.
will communicate through that public IP. Multiple devices will be connected to internet from that public IP through router, correct?
Yeah, using NAT.
Using NAT. Once we will switch because NAT is act as the router is act as a NAT.
Correct.
Once we will switch off the router, we will get, and after that, after 2 hours or 3 hours, we will again switch on the router. We will
Hmm.
get a new IP address, or we will get the same IP address, public IP address,
There is
different
no
IP address.
guarantee that you can get the same IP.
Okay,
Yeah,
because it is getting from the public pool IP addresses from the ISP.
exactly. Like we discussed in our last class. Yes.
That's where static and dynamic means ISP is mostly using dynamics net, right?
Correct. They would use dynamic because they don't. Earlier it used to be static, right? But now I think all of them are using dynamic.
One more question, last question.
Uh-huh.
Our mobile is using mobile data, right?
Correct.
So once we are getting the same IP when we I have tried using 2 3 days. We are getting the same IP from the ISP. That is
Okay.
IP address,
Okay.
public IP address.
Okay. Yeah, I think it can vary from.
Mobile is not connected to Wi-Fi device. Mobile is connected using mobile data. Then how's our
Okay.
Airtel or Jio will provide the IP? That is static IP or dynamic IP?
I am not sure, but I think I'm assuming that they use dynamic IP, but it can vary from service provider to service provider,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay. Please go. And last question. The key pair we have downloaded. So I have
Mm-hmm.
tried to using this key pair. That key pair
Okay.
and one more option is there in AWS to create a new key pair. That is different, or when we create an instance, there is a last step to download existing pair, use existing pair, or create a new pair. That is same one, or is there any difference between them?
They are same because
Okay,
at the part of the creation, right, it's giving you the option to select the keeper that you would like to associate at that moment, right when you're creating the EC2 instance.
yeah,
Typically, what you would do is like for a set of Linux servers, right? Let's say they all belong to sales team. So you tend to keep the same key pair because you can connect to any sales Linux server then. Same for Windows. You may probably create a different key pair for Windows sales servers so that you can connect to any Windows servers using that. Typically, you don't want to create like a key pair for every instance because now you have to manage so many key pairs.
okay, okay. And how the mostly we are downloading the key as a public key, right?
It's not a public key. It's a private key, but basically it's a PEM format.
Yeah, it's in PEM format. And when we
Yeah,
load that key, we will convert into PPK
correct.
and save as a private key. Means both are private keys, or
Yes.
means we are converting public to private.
No, no, no. It's private.
Both private.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
PEM is just a different format, right? It's not a public key.
Yeah, I have tried that and I am able to log into that. But there are some challenges when to select RSA, SHA1, SHA2, RSA because of the
Yeah, no,
versioning mechanism the put in.
correct. You don't have to do that. Just load the PEM file, convert it into save as private key. That's it. It'll work.
Yeah, yeah, I have
You
tried
can
that.
use that. You can use partition to basically encrypt your, PEM or PPK file, so that if you're using those files again, you have to provide another password. You can do that, but not necessary.
Once we have used that key, can we see, because I cannot see my key on that key pair section. Yeah,
Um,
we will first create that instance, then we can see whether we can
okay,
see the key in the key pair section, fingerprint and key
okay,
pair section.
alrighty. So here I'm creating a new security group, just to show you how it works. So I can select an existing security group if the rule matches my requirement, right? I think I have some Linux SG. I think this one matches my requirement. Oh, it actually has more. Apart from port 22, in this particular existing security group, I have port 8443. I think this one is the port 20. So I could do two things, right? I could pick from the existing security group if it matches my rules, or I can create a new one like I was doing it, right? Plus, what you can also do is you can select multiple security groups. For example, you have one for port 22. Maybe you have another security group for HTTP and HTTPS. So you
Right,
can select multiple, and basically it will be a union of all the rules. Union means appending. So, for
right.
example, in this you have port 22, in this you have port 80 and 443. It's going to be a union of those two. But for now, I'm just going to stick to port 22. And so we will, we will proceed. Summary. Okay, port 22 looks good. Say launch. So here, I think I already have an existing key pair, so I'm just going to use that. I need to remember what the key pair name was. Um, I think it is this. Okay, give me a second. Let me check what the key pair file was. Um, my first EC2 ins. Okay, got it. That was it. Yeah, this was the one. So I'm gonna select that I already have a key pair that I'm gonna use. Acknowledge it and say launch instances. Okay. So yeah, this will be currently in pending state. It's initializing. It will come to running in a moment. Meanwhile, let me open this up. Let me go to.
In previous class, you have created instances. You have deleted that, or it will be deleted automatically.
No, no, it won't be deleted automatically. You have to delete it
So
or
once the
terminate
class
it.
is over, you are deleting that because of the charges or something like that.
Yes.
Are you using paid service or using free service, free account, free tier account?
So there is nothing like that, right? Basically, as you create the account for the first time, it assumes a free tier, and then whatever service you use beyond free tier limits, you are charged. So if you see here, this is the public IP address that's assigned. So I'm gonna copy it and I will try to connect here. I'm not showing you the other console, but basically I'll be able to connect, right? So I'm in. So perfect. But that's not what I wanted to show. So this instance is created and you can see all the properties here. So let's go through some of the key performance indicators here. This is an instance ID. So every EC2 instance that you create has a unique instance ID associated. That's how you identify, uniquely one instance from the other across the globe. Like anyone who's creating an instance across the globe will have a unique ID. across anyone else. And you can see the instance type is C2 micro. You can see a private IP being assigned. So yes, a private IP and a public IP can be assigned to your EC2 instance. Now you also have DNS. This is an internal DNS. This is the external DNS. So I could use the IP or I could also use this DNS in order to connect to my EC2 instance from my laptop. So this DNS will also work. It's a public DNS.
Yeah, but what is the public DNS is nothing but host name, right?
Correct. It's nothing but the host name. And it's usually in this format, right? Basically they embed the IP as a hyphen here and then dot compute hyphen one dot amazon.com. It's just the IP that they embed in the DNS name. Then you can see that, okay, this is important. Network interfaces. So there is only one network interface that gets assigned by default, which is your ETH0. Okay. So you could click here and then it will take you to the network interfaces page. So you can see all the properties here. Let's click here to go to the network interfaces page. So right now I'm in the network interfaces page, this one. So this is the network interface assigned, and you can say it is in use. Obviously, the IP addresses are always mapped to the network interface, right? That's what we see here. You can also see the security group, the firewall that's mapped to that network interface. And this is basically the account ID saying that I am the owner. So further, you can see, for example, what I wanted to show was,
This is the virtual network interface, right? Not the
yeah,
physical,
we call this as ENI, Elastic Network Interface. And the reason
right?
it's called as Elastic is because you can actually like attach this to another EC2 instance. So let's say this particular EC2 instance is down, right? And then you have another EC2 instance for which you want to attach the same IP. So you can detach it from here and attach it to the other EC2 instance. So that way, you're able to elastically move it, right? That's why it's called Elastic Network Interface. So yeah, you can see the security groups assigned. You can see the inbound rules right from here. You can see the outbound rules. It will basically say everything, all, everything is allowed. Okay, so now this is your network interface. For example, you have a use case, right? That apart from the standard network interface that comes, you want to allocate an additional network interface. Maybe because you want to separate your backup traffic, or maybe your replication traffic, or maybe something else. You need to have a separate network interface. You can create that. You can basically, just right here, you can say create network interface, give it a description, maybe call it backup network. Um, subnet so subnet is basically your availability zone. Again, we'll get into the subnet and VPCs a little later. So for now, just assume that since I'm in North Virginia, I have 6 availability zones. I have to pick the availability zone in which my instance is created, which means I need to know which availability zone is created. So it looks like it's US East 1A, right? So that means when I create the second interface, obviously it should be in the same availability zone, because I cannot attach, a network interface from a 1B availability zone to an instance in 1A. So I have to select the same availability zone as what my instance is in. Let's call it backup network. So here, your elastic fabric adapter is basically so this is required really for these kind of instances, high performance computing or machine learning. For these kind of instances, you can attach the elastic fabric adapter that will enhance the network performance. But my use case is not that. I'm just creating a Linux server, plain Linux server, so I will not select that. And then you select the security group that you want to assign. Again, I'm going to go with the same Linux SSH because I'm just allowing the port 22. Now, if you have other backup ports that you want to assign, you can do that as well. Like if there are certain ports that are being used for backup purposes, you need to allow those ports. So let's see. Yeah, so this is the instance, I'm sorry, this is the Elastic Network interface that is created. This is the one on the top. As you can see, the description says backup network and it is available. So all I have to do is select the network interface, say attach, pick the instance. This is the instance, right? Linux, and say attach. So now it says in use. So the state has changed from available to in use. So now if I go back to my EC2 instance, here you should see two interfaces, ETH0 and ETH1. And there are two IP addresses because this is the one for ETH0 and this is the one for ETH1. So yeah, I can assign multiple interfaces to for different backup networks or any other network segregation that you may want to have for your EC2 instance. Okay. Now, apart from this, there's one more concept called as elastic IP. So far, what we noted is whenever you're creating an EC2 instance, you're getting a public IP assigned from the Amazon pool of IPs, right? So the Amazon pool of IPs is giving you that one of the IP that is available from the pool, which is a dynamic pool, which means let's say you try to restart your EC2 instance, or not restart, basically shut down, and then after a few minutes you start it up, right? So when you do that, there is no guarantee that the IP, the public IP that was previously assigned, will stick to your EC2 instance. It can change. So there is no guarantee that the same public IP will stick to your EC2 instance. And that could be
Mahi,
a serious problem. Yeah.
if suppose that instance is running from last 1 year, so
Uh-huh.
there in 1 year there might be chances that, but in 1 year the instance was not down.
Okay.
So IP will change or IP will not change.
If your instance is not stopped, IP will reserve, for your instance.
So we can say that it is static for only for running machine. If we stop
That
that machine and again start, this it is not guarantee is not there that same IP will be assigned. It might be chance that different IP will be assigned, right?
correct. Also, if there is, let's say, the underlying physical server, right, had some issue. So what Amazon automatically does is, like how our VMware high availability works, same way. So if your underlying physical hardware fails, it'll try to remotion it to another ESXi host, right? Same thing. They will try to move your instance to another, physical host. In that case also, it can change.
Right.
So yeah, so basically, if you have a requirement where the IP addresses shouldn't change, um, then yeah, it's basically better to use another concept called as elastic IP address. Okay, this is your static IP address. And the reason it's called elastic is because you can actually move this IP address around, across different instances. You can remove it from one instance and then reuse it for another instance. That's why it's called elastic, but it's a static IP address that will stick to your EC2 instance. So all you got to do is come to the elastic IP section and say allocate elastic IP address. So you basically can do two things here. One is my pool of public IPv4 addresses. So if you had bought a pool of public elastic IP addresses already, you can actually use that from your pool. or if you don't have such pool already, you can simply pick the Amazon pool of IPv4.
I
So I'm
think
gonna,
in case of the private cloud, we have to use that my pool public IP, right?
it depends, right? Like
If
depends
we are
upon
using our
how
network,
many IP addresses you want to use.
okay,
Because if, let's say, my requirement is I do not have a lot of public servers in my environment, all of them are just gonna be internal. So there, I don't have a lot of use case for public IPs, right?
they will charge for Amazon pool of IP addresses, right? If we are purchasing elastic IP, they must charge.
Absolutely. So once I click on allocate here, IP address is automatically assigned, right? And irrespective of whether I am attaching it to an instance or not, I am being charged. If there's an IP address that's allocated for me, from that time I am being charged, even if I allocate this to an instance or not.
Right.
So if you see here, there is no associated instance, right? That means there's nothing associated yet. There's no owner. So I basically can select this and say actions and say associate elastic IP address. And I can choose an instance here. And I have two interfaces now, right? ETH0 and ETH1. So 246 is ETH0, 61 is ETH1. I will select, let's say ETH1, because 246 ETH0 already has a public IP that Amazon is assigned. So I'm going to assign this to my ETH1, say associate. Please specify an interface ID. Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Let's go with the network because it's saying it has multiple interface. It's not picking that way. We have to use this. Okay, for this I need to know the elastic IP. Sorry, the network interface. All right, let me duplicate this. We'll go to the network interfaces page. So this is the one that I'm interested in, and it's ending with 5776. So that's the network interface I will select, 5776, and that's the IP address. Okay, so it is assigned. Now let's go back to our instances. We'll do a refresh, and you should see an elastic IP assigned now.
Now,
See,
what is the difference between our public IP address and that elastic IP? We can use both the IPs, right?
yeah, so this is for your ETH0, this is for your ETH1, right? The biggest difference being this is not a static IP that will stick to your EC2 all the time, but this will stick to your EC2 until the time you terminate and remove this interface. This IP address will always stick to your EC2 instance. Clear?
Can you say that the public IP address for the first time it is created is always stick to first interface?
There's only one interface that you'll have when you create the EC2 instance. You'll always have just one.
Because there is no wizard to create a network interface during the instances.
Correct. And then later you can create if you want more.
Okay. Can we
Okay.
have multiple elastic IPs or only one elastic IP?
You can have multiple elastic IPs. Like
But
you could have
mostly,
another
generally,
use
they
case,
are not
right?
using, right? The use case is not there, right? Or there is a use case.
There could be, right? You could have maybe one for backup network and another for replication. Or maybe you are hosting a database on your EC2 instance and you want to have another network for one application to connect your database. I mean, there could be different use cases, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you could always have multiple network interfaces. That's
right.
very common, right? Like even on-prem, it's very common.
Yeah.
So that's about your elastic IP. Um, all right. So let's look at
And when can we release the Elastic API once the instance is down or that network interface is down?
which Elastic IP. Uh, so, for
Yeah,
example, if your instance is down, right, or you want basically maybe decommission that server. You don't need that application anymore, or maybe you have a newer version of that application. So you can remove the interface from the previous EC2 instance and then attach, if you want to keep the same IP for your upgraded application, you can attach the same IP to the other EC2 instance. You can detach the interface and attach the interface.
because we can use the same IP addresses,
If
and
that's
because
a
we have,
requirement.
and the it is cost effective because we have charged that IP addresses for once.
Unless you deallocate the IP address, you are being
Uh,
charged. Whether you use it or not, if you have it allocated in your pool, you are being charged, right? So this is the key pair you are talking about, right, Danish? What was it about?
yeah. I have created one instance, but I cannot see my key pair here.
Mm, it's there, right? This is the one that we created.
I will again cross check and I will get back to you tomorrow if there is an issue.
Yeah.
I will screen my screen
Sometimes
and
what
I will show you.
happens, yeah, sometimes what happens, the filter gets applied. Okay, so just make sure that you,
No, only three pairs
delete
are
any
there,
filters.
not yeah. The here you have multiple key pair, but I have only 2 to 3 key pairs.
Okay,
I
just
will
check,
again cross check
let
that.
me know. Yeah.
And how to check fingerprint? Okay, you can see fingerprint here. We have to match this fingerprint with the that SSH RSA fingerprint on the puttigen. It should be
Yeah,
matched,
when you load it. Yes.
right?
Okay. All right. A few more things here. So if you see here, right, under monitoring, you have this basic monitoring is what is selected at the moment. So keep in mind that when you create an EC2 instance, as part of the EC2 instance setup, Amazon is giving for free some basic monitoring metrics, mostly around CPU utilization, disk reads, network in, network out. So basically, some hypervisor side metrics. It's not the OS side metrics, just the hypervisor side metrics that they are providing as free. Now, in
And
order to get the
this is
advanced
a
metrics,
real-time graphs.
yes, they're all real time. You can actually like select one of them and you can, hover over and then see the graphs, etc. You can also like change these things.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so in order to get the additional metrics from the OS side, there's a separate agent that we have to install, regarding which we will discuss when we get there. Um, Now, basic monitoring is only giving you every 5 minutes. So the data point is every 5 minutes. Now, sometimes every 5 minutes is not good, right? Especially if you're troubleshooting some performance issues, you would want to have more granular data points. So in order to do that, you have to enable the detailed monitoring. So I say enable detailed monitoring, and when I click on yes, enable, it will enable it, which means now I will have the frequency at every 1 minute. So instead of every 5 minute frequency, now the data points will be calculated every 1 minute, but at an additional cost. Okay. And yeah, all of these are real time. You can simply select on anything and then you would, as you can see here, this is at 7:54 UTC IST, and this is 7:59 IST, so 5 minutes gap, right? Again, you'll have one at 8:04, 8:09. So It's showing me the basic monitoring at the moment. Um, as you can see here, it basically shows the system checks and the status checks. So you can see the system reachability check has passed and instance reachability check has passed. So your instance is reachable. There is no hardware issue on the physical server where the instance is running. There is no issue at the availability zone or the data center level. All looks good. Okay, so this is your Linux instance. Okay, now let's create a Windows instance. Again, the reason I want to create a Windows instance is just to show you how to log in. Okay, but otherwise everything else is same. So again, launch instance. Here I would search for Windows. Let's do a Windows Server 2012. This one, free tier eligible. Let's do a T2 micro again. In number of instances, one. So as you can see here, because the corresponding AMI for Windows 2012 has the root device or the root volume as 30 GB, it by default 30 GB, right? I didn't select this. Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna say next.
Mahi, I forgot what is that T2 micro. Always it is saying T2 micro. What is that means? It is free tier, but what is that free tier? It's instance
It's
type
an
or
yeah, it's an instance type. So like here, right? You have different instance types for different use cases depending upon the configuration that you require. So I'm going with T2 micro. You have all these different instance types, right?
Hi Mahi,
So
sorry I was late.
hey, Binit,
Yeah.
hey, no worries. Thanks for joining.
okay.
Yeah, so I'm just selecting that. I'll add the Windows tag to it. Security group. So in order to connect to Windows, right, you'll have to use the RDP protocol, remote desktop protocol, and the standard port is 3389. So that's what is allowed. That's fine. I will just go with this. So I'm creating a new security group now, and I'm allowing port 3389 from anyone or anywhere else. Looks good. I can use the existing key pair actually. I don't have to recreate it. So yeah, I'm gonna use the existing key pair. I can share it between Linux and Windows. It'll work. Launch instance. Oh, okay. See what it says? It says there is a security group called Windows already exists in this particular region. So that means when I try to say I want to create another security group called Windows, it's not allowing me, right? So let's go back to the review screen and let's rename it. Let's call it
Windows test.
yeah, EC2, something like this. Launch again, launch again. So yeah, as you can see, right, as part of the creation, it's actually evaluating before it actually starts the wizard for creating it, which is good. So usually Windows, it takes time. It can take up to 5 minutes, okay, before it's completely up. So we leave it at that, and let's look at yeah, AMIs. So like I said before, we can actually create our own AMIs, right? Um, in order to automate some particular agent install or some application install. If there is a repetitive tool that I always install on my operating system, then instead of having it, after the fact, right, you can actually do it as part of your AMI. That way, it comes pre-installed. For example, all my Windows servers has Firefox browser to be installed. That's my use case. So instead of creating the Windows EC2 instance and then installing Firefox, you can actually create a AMI that has Firefox installed And whenever you are building a Windows EC2 instance, use that AMI. That way it comes with Firefox pre-installed, right?
Can
So
we say that
that's
as
one.
software appliance?
Software appliance, no, because
OS plus
it's different.
applications.
Yeah, better call it a template, right? I think that's the better word.
Okay.
Yeah, a template or a custom build, right?
Custom OS. Okay. Custom build.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do that now. We'll connect to the Windows EC2 instance, and we'll try to install
Our
Firefox,
last question.
and then we'll create
Under
a
inst.
AMI out of it. Let me finish it, Danish. One moment.
Okay, please go ahead.
So we will create the EC2 instance. We will install Firefox on it, and then we will create a AMI from that image. So we're actually creating an AMI from an EC2 instance. Okay, that is possible. So then I'm going to create an AMI out of it, and that AMI we will try to create another Windows EC2 instance using this my private AMI, and then we will see if the Firefox comes as part of it, which it should. So AMI,
Mike, could you please repeat that? Actually,
which one?
what process we are doing? Could you please repeat for once?
Sure, I'm gonna do it, so I'll go through it
Okay.
anyways. Okay. So AMI is basically coming from your EC2 instance, right? So once it is available, by default, your AMI is private. That means it's not available for everyone. It is only owned and shared by the account or the owner who's created it. But you can make it public, right? We've seen the community AMIs where people can share their AMIs, that anyone else could use. So we'll also try to do that. We'll try to make it public and see if it shows up in the community. Okay. I think my Windows server probably is up by now. Let's check. So it says running and the status checks have been passed. Perfect. So for me to connect to the Windows instance, you basically have to click on connect here. Okay. And then you have to get the password, right? Now, in order to get the password, you have to upload the PEM file that you've downloaded. Okay. The PEM file that you have associated with the EC2 instance, you have to upload it, which will then convert it into a password. And basically, it's like decrypting your password. You're using your PEM file as a key to decrypt your password, and then the password will show up in the UI. Okay,
But we have
so
not used. We have used our existing key pair. That is my first EC2.pam.
correct.
So
Any
we
key
will
pair,
use
it
that
doesn't
key.
matter. Correct. You can use any key. You could create a new one, or you can use an existing one. In this case, like you said, I have selected the existing one. So I have to upload the same PEM file,
Right.
right? Okay, I'm just gonna unshare as I do this because I have other things I probably will share otherwise. So yeah, all I'm doing is I'm just picking the file. Okay, just picking the PEM file and say decrypt password. Okay, my password has appeared now. Let me reshare. Okay, see that? So my password is available now. So all I have to do is I have to connect to the instance. I can use the IP address or I can use this public DNS name. And then the username is administrator. So it's not EC2-user here, it's administrator. This is the local administrator. And then you have the password. So now I can connect, right? Now in order to connect, depending upon again what OS you're using, if you're using Windows, you'd already have the RDP tool part of it your OS, or if you're using Mac, I have to use another third-party RDP tool. So yeah, let me, try to open that up. Okay, still opening.
You unshared the screen.
Yeah, I have unshared the
Okay.
screen. Okay, remote connections, RDP. Alrighty. So let me share the screen. Okay, so I'm gonna use this tool, some remote desktop manager. So let me key in the IP address first. So the public IP of Windows CC2 instance, which is this, and I say create, and now I have to open the session, which will then ask me for username and password. So the username, as we know, is administrator, right? And the password I'm gonna pick from, oops,
Can we
okay.
use MS STC or Windows RDP to connect to this machine? We cannot use.
You can. Since I'm using Mac, right? I don't have
Yeah,
RDP.
yeah, yeah,
There's no RDP for
yeah,
Mac.
yeah. Right, right. Got it, got it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It's
so
a
I'm gonna
very.
say okay, and oops, okay, something happened. Hold on. So the IP address, or I could use the DNS name as well. So let's use DNS. Create, open session. Yeah, sorry guys. It's the app issue, okay? Paste, create, open session. Okay. Administrator, and the password is this. I think it's still loading. Yeah, there you go. So we see the Windows loading now, boot screen, and it should be up here any moment. Okay, there you go. So let's verify that we don't have Firefox. So I'm going to go to Control Panel, Programs, and as you can see, right? Sorry, there is no Firefox browser installed. So that's what I would like to install now. Yeah, it's going to be a little challenging installing it through Internet Explorer. Okay, screen resolution is too low. Okay, all right. Change your screen resolution. Okay. Um, Again, I think it's the app thing, guys. That's why it's complaining. It doesn't like my screen resolution. How do I do this on this app? Okay, we'll do it the other way. Okay, instead of the app, we'll try to create a file and a folder, and let's see if our AMI will have this file and folder. Okay, same thing, right? It's just a template that we're creating. So let's call this AWS training, and let's create a file within this AWS training. Let's add some content. This is to test um, private AMI creation. Okay, this is what I want to do. Save it. Oh, sorry. File save. Okay, let's verify. It is there. Okay, so my EC2 instance has a custom folder and a custom file. Now I would like to create a template AMI out of this. So, okay, creating an AMI, right? Here are the steps that we will be doing. The first step is, in order to create a consistent template or a consistent AMI, it's recommended that you shut down your EC2 instance. Okay, because I'm creating my AMI from this EC2 instance, it is recommended that I shut down my EC2 instance so that I will have a consistent template or an image. Makes sense, right? Because if it was a real application that was running on this server and it could be doing transactions continuously, you don't want to have an inconsistent AMI, right? That way, it's better that you shut down and then take a image of it. So for that reason, I can shut it down from the guest side or I can do it from the AWS side also. But since I haven't shown
My
you how to do it from AWS side, I'm going to do it from
my
AWS side.
host
Yes,
name is Windows K6L87 here. That host name and the public DNS host name, these are different, right?
correct.
But
Your public
we
DNS
already
name,
so we cannot
sorry,
say
go ahead.
public DNS name as host name.
Public DNS name, again, it's just how you call it, right? Like a host name on the Windows side, yeah, if you look at the My Computers also, it is not that DNS name that you see here. Look at this.
So this name is assigned by AWS itself, or
It is assigned by AWS itself. And you can change it, right? This is like how you would do it on a Windows server on-prem. You can change this computer name.
Can we
but
change
what is
the DNS name as well?
Yes, you can change the DNS name as well. This is a service called as Route 53 in AWS. It's a DNS manager, like how you have, your on-prem uh, Microsoft DNS manager. Similarly, AWS has a DNS manager called Route 53, where you can change your DNSs.
my question is the IP to host, that mapping is
Uh-huh.
between this host name Windows K6 or public DNS host name.
It's the public DNS host name.
Means this host name doesn't have a relation with this that IP, right? When we dig or when we try to NS lookup, it
Mm-hmm.
will always give the public DNS host name instead of this
Correct.
host name, right?
Correct. Now, again, that's how you want to do it, right? Then it's like it's not necessary that every organization will keep their computer name slash host name and DNS name always the same. It is not necessary,
Okay.
right? I mean, all the people follow that. It's not necessary because your DNS name can be different, your IP than your computer name.
And every EC2 instance will have different, means unique public DNS host name, right?
Absolutely. Because it is constructed from the IP address, right? We've seen that.
Right.
The
Yeah.
DNS name is, it has to be unique.
This is
Okay,
just a
so
logical name, and this is just a logical name, and there is no relation between this host name with the public DNS host name, right?
okay, that's right. Do you understand the concept of computers in the Active Directory domain?
That's the issue. We are not
Where,
from the Windows background. We are from the Linux
okay,
background.
okay, all right. So basically, the computer name, right, within any Windows server is something that you register on your domain, right? You say, okay, this particular server is the name that I'm registering. So DNS is different, your domain is different. Okay, DNS is for your IP resolution, right? Domain or the computer name that you register in your domain is basically a name that you're giving to your computer, which is unique in that domain.
Okay.
Okay, but again, like you said, it's not a Windows class. I don't want to get into too deep into that. So let's switch back to our AWS console. We'll stop the instance. We will take AMI out of it. So let me reshare my screen. Okay, so here is my Windows instance. So in order to do that, right, you can go to select that corresponding instance, go to Actions, Instance State, and stop. Yes, stop it. Okay, so now it is stopped. So now what you do is again select this corresponding instance, go to Actions, Image, and create an image. So you can do this from here. Okay, you can also do this by going into volumes, EBS Elastic Block Store volumes. So here, this is your root volume, right? 30 GB Windows, this is your root volume. Actions, yeah, create a snapshot and then do it. Okay, I guess I will show you this second. First, let's do this. Let's do it from the instance side. So click here, Actions, Image, create an image. Now give it a name. Let's call it Windows AWS, right? You can add a description also. Keep the same name. This is the property, right, of the current instance. So if you want to modify maybe from 30 GB to 25 GB, you can do that. So whoever picks this AMI will by default have a 25 GB root volume. Okay. But yeah, let's keep it to 30 only. You can also add additional volumes, data volumes if you want. Like if your AMI template should have additional data volumes, you can add that. But no, I just want to keep it to a C drive. So leave it as is and say create image. So the image request has been received. It's still pending. You can actually check the status under images AMIs. It's saying pending. So now it is going through the image creation process. We'll let it finish. Can take up to a few minutes. Now, coming back to the EBS volumes and creating the AMI from here, right? Because even though you're selecting the instances and then saying create AMI, it's actually doing a couple of steps, which is automated, but it's doing it from here. Okay. So what it is basically doing is it is first taking a snapshot of this EBS. Okay. Once the snapshot is taken, it'll come to snapshot and then it'll basically create an image. In fact, if you see, right, that's what it's doing. It has now created a snapshot of the EBS volume corresponding to that Windows, right? And that snapshot is what is creating right now. And once the snapshot is created, then it will create the AMI from that snapshot. So that's the backend process. But from our standpoint, it's just creating the image and backend is doing it. So you can either just do it like how I did, or you can come here under volumes, take a snapshot, and then come under snapshot, and then say actions, create image. So you can do it 2 steps or 1 step. So the snapshot is created. Now it is creating the
Okay.
AMI. Okay, it is done now. You can see the status is showing available. And the visibility, like I said, by default, it is private. That is only the owner can see the AMI. Yes. Was there a question?
So if suppose we are creating from the volumes on the windows, if suppose there are 10 volumes, then we have to create the snapshot of 10 volumes, or
Then you won't work from that way. So you can't create it from there. But typically, right, your image is always your OS, correct?
right?
Your image is always your OS. So you would usually not pick a data volume for your image. It's your OS root volume.
And once that snapshot is created, that snapshot is write enabled or it's in lock state.
Which one?
Once we create that
This one.
snapshot,
Uh-huh.
that snapshot is a write enabled or it's in lock state.
It does not work that way in AWS. I will explain. I guess we'll
Okay.
talk about snapshot right after AMI. I'll explain.
Okay.
So going back to the AMI, right? This is the AMI available now. Now let's do this. Let's go back to our instances and try to launch an instance using that AMI. Okay. So I'm going to say launch instance. So here, instead of quick start AMI, now I'm going to go to my AMIs. See? And there is a unique AMI ID associated. And it's saying I am the owner. This is my account ID. So I can simply say select and then go through the process to create it. Right? But before doing this, what I would also like to do is I would like to publish this AMI in the community. So right now it's not published because it is set to private. Visibility is private. I can change it to public. So to do that, you say actions and modify image permissions, make it public. So now I think it will take a while for it to show up in the community AMIs. Let's search. Yeah.
Can we make it like to particular users, or it's only either public or private?
You can make it actually. For example, you can basically assign it to particular accounts. So let's say there are other AWS accounts, right? Who also wants to use the same AMI. You can give the account ID as a 12-digit ID and then say add permission.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it will take a few minutes for it to show up in the community, but we'll go ahead and launch the AMI with the private permissions that I already have. Just the defaults, all defaults. See 30 GB showing up. Let's add a name tag. Let's call this Windows underscore AWS. Security group, I'm going to say existing because I already have one. Where is this? Windows EC2, this one. Launch, I'm going to use the same key pair they already have. Launch instance. So now the expectation is when I log into this instance, it should have that folder already present, that folder and file already present. Let's see. Community AMIs, Windows underscore AWS. Yeah, it's still not there. Okay, we'll give it some time. And the same thing can be done for your Linux as well. Okay, same funda, just install what you want, set up what you want on its root file system, and then create an AMI out of it. Okay, there's one more concept called as Bootstrap. So I'm basically gonna go through the Linux wizard again. Okay, I'm gonna select the Amazon Linux AMI. T2 micro is fine. In here, at the end, there is a section called Advanced Details on the Configure Instance page. This is applicable for both Windows or Linux. You have this at the end of the page. In here, you can give some commands that you would like to run. Okay, it could be, for example, you have a requirement where after the install of every Linux OS, you install some agents, some monitoring agents, some backup agents, network monitoring agents, so some couple of agents you install. Now, instead of you going manually and then, uh, you know, going into each server and then installing them, and let's say you have like hundreds of servers that you build every day, that's a lot of manual effort, right? Instead of that, why can't you automate them? So this section is like your post install script. So that means after the install of the OS, you would run the commands that are present in the script, which will then automatically run on your behalf. For example, I could have steps like, okay, download the agent file from this repository. So I will use a wget space the link to that file. And once it is downloaded, maybe I want to create a directory for that agent to be installed under OPT, maybe OPT/agent. And once the directory is created, now I want to run the RPM command, RPM space -i, against that package that I downloaded to install the agent, right? So that is done. Again, second agent I want to install, third agent I want to install. So there are some series of steps, commands, script that you want to run on each of the Linux OS after the OS installation is done. This is where you can specify that. We call this as the bootstrap script. Okay, a bootstrap script. You can do this for Linux. You can use all the shell commands. You can do this for Windows. You can use all the batch commands, okay, in order to do those things. So that's what you specify here, the post install script. So the input can either be a text file where you're basically just typing the actual script here. For example, if you're using a shell script, right, you will do the shebang. You'll specify which shell and then you write your code, right? Um, Similarly, Windows does not have anything like this. But yeah, basically you just now write your code. Maybe you want a CD to OPT, and then you want to do a directory creation under OPT called agent, and then maybe you want to wget some file RPM, series of steps, right? That you write here, which will be run on the OS once the OS instance is created. Okay. Or you could upload a script file also. You can say as file and then choose the file, and you can upload the file also if you already have a script that you want to run. Yeah, so that's how the bootstrap script works. Okay, coming back to our Windows EC2 instance that we created from the AMI. This is the one, right? So again, I'm gonna get the password here. Give me a minute, guys. Okay, where is this? Okay. Okay, I have it. All right. So we'll connect to the instance now. Share. Okay. So this is the public IP of the Windows AWS that we created from the AMI. Now, since we have created the AMI from the previous existing Windows instance, whatever key pair and whatever password is associated with that AMI is the same password that you associate with this one also, right? So I'm going to use the same credentials. Administrator is the user and the credentials the same as the previous one. Okay, and say okay. Oops, something happened. Okay, let me reconnect. Public IP. Administrator. Administrator and the password. Oh, sorry, I used the wrong password, guys. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Okay, so let me re-log in. That's the IP. Open the session. Administrator and the password is this. Huh, is it failing? I'm just trying to check the ping, okay? If I'm able to reach the IP. I have to do a NC minus ZV 3389. Okay, I'm connected. Yeah. Why is it failing? Administrator, administrator, and the password is this. Paste. The error message also just like goes away in a split second. I'm unable to catch what it says.
We can also RDP this IP, right?
Yeah, but you need to have the. Oh, you can. Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Because I selected 00, right?
Yeah. Security group.
Yeah, I
I think you
checked the error
already
message
selected this.
does not say for like it
No.
just goes in a
Sorry.
split second. So I'm unable to figure out if it's the password I'm not keying it right or um, network wise I'm able to reach the port, so that's not issue.
Sorry.
That's the right administrator. Yeah, that's the right password as well. Okay, administrator and password. And now it seems like it's working. Okay, that just could be me, guys. Sorry. So there you go. AWS training, text file. This is the file that we created,
So
right?
what was the issue? Why you were not able to connect?
I think the password was the issue. I didn't key in the right password. Maybe there was a space
Mahi,
in the password.
I cannot RDP to that IP as it is public, right?
It is public, yes. Which IP?
That Windows machine IP.
Is this 5486? Okay, let me reshare the screen. Is it this IP? 54866093?
Yeah, I am not able to RDP that. Maybe, and ping is not there. General failure message is there.
Correct, because ICMP, I've disabled ICMP. I mean, I haven't enabled ICMP.
Yeah, but RDP should be there. No?
RTP should work. Absolutely. That's why I'm connected.
It's not connecting from my end.
What does it say?
54. I think you have to go to that RDP session and allow remote connections. That might be the issue, right?
No. What does it say? Like, what is the error you get?
Let me 54, 86, 60, 93.
Yes. Is it not giving you the prompt for username password?
Remote desktop connection cannot connect to remote computer for one of the reasons that a general message remote access to server is not enabled, or the remote computer is turned off, or the remote computer is not available on the network.
Are you able to telnet to this IP over 3389?
Let me.
Because I just tested here. Like, if you look at my telnet check.
Yeah,
So I just did like a telnet to this IP over 3389 and it's connected. I mean, I didn't use the telnet utility because I don't have. I use the NC utility. But yeah, it connected for me.
it's not working.
I was
Let me
trying to
try.
ping from my Mac.
Uh-huh.
Ping is not going here.
Yeah, because ICMP packet is not
I
enabled.
think that it is new.
Okay.
You can try the same thing, Bennett, NC minus ZV, and then give the IP address, then the port. It should
Can
stay
can you
connected.
can you just like put it into chat?
Yeah.
So do I have need to install NC feature or something or no?
Usually it should be part of the Mac. It's not?
Yeah, it says connection is good. Yeah, succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think RDP is not allowing. Maybe you have to go to that machine and allow remote connections.
I'm connected by RDP, right?
Yeah, but the remote computers, it's
No, I connected remotely
right.
only, right?
Yeah. Connected remote.
Okay. I mean, maybe something that you can check offline.
Okay.
Just create your own Windows server and see it should work. Because I am also connected remotely, right? Okay, so that's your AMI creation. Now let's actually go and see in the community section if it shows up. I think it should be available by now. Windows underscore AWS. Yeah, there you go. See this? So this is basically now anyone can see it, right? You can, or anyone who has a AWS account and comes under community AMI should be able to search for this AMI and use it.
Can we create our own OA and upload here?
Your own OVA,
OA,
you mean?
OVA, yeah, OVA, OVA.
Yeah, you can. You can basically import your own OVA. Yes, possible.
Okay, okay.
Okay, now let's shift gears into volumes. So as you see, right, there's one volume for every instance that I created. This is all the root volumes, right? Now, apart from the root volume, sometimes you would like to create additional data volumes, like B drive, E drive, or /U01, /U02, if it's Linux, different your own local file systems per se. So what you can do is you can come under the Elastic Block Store. Okay, that's the concept which is giving you the local disks or local file systems. One thing is if you have an instance in a particular availability zone, the EBS volume has to be in the same availability zone. You cannot, do a cross availability zone. Not allowed. Also, the data that you store on the EBS volume is replicated across different disks within the same availability zone. So basically, the fear of, hey, what if my disk, the underlying physical disk where my volume is stored is lost? Will I lose my data? No, because Amazon tries to create multiple copies of what you store in the EBS volume across different disks in the same availability zone. So even if one disk is lost, or even if two disks is lost, you still have your data available. So the availability is 5 nines for EBS volumes. It's 99.999. That's pretty good. 5 nines availability. So
But
yeah,
it's
that's
part of the
basically
same. It's that replication or the data availability will be also part of the same AZ, right?
yes. It's always part of the same AZ.
And I can see for each volume there is a associated snapshot with it.
That's because usually by default, every root volume, every time you create an instance, the root volume snapshot is taken. That's a
For the
standard
first
that
time, for the first
only
time
for
it
the
is
first time.
created, or it is
Correct.
updated, or
No,
if there is any
only
changes in
for
the
the first
OS file, is there will be any changes in the snapshot, or the snapshot is only for the first time it is taken?
only for the first time.
Okay, that's not right anymore. Okay.
Correct. So that's what an EBS is. And as we discussed in our last class, there are different EBS volume types, right, for different use cases. So yeah, we'll see as part of the create volume wizard that you can pick the volume type that you want, and you can always mix and match different volume types for the same EC2 instance, right? So all that is allowed. Okay, so let's say I want to attach a new disk to my Windows AWS because it's up and running now. Let's attach a drive to it. So it's a create volume. Volume type, we have all these volume types. The first two are the SSD, the second two are the SDD, and the last one is the older generation storage magnetic standard. So yeah, I'm going to go with the GP2. Minimum is 1 GB, maximum is 16 terabyte per volume. I'm going to go with a 5 GB. Okay. So the baseline performance, I get it 100. Anything below 33.3 GB, you get 100 IOPS as the baseline performance. Now make sure to select the availability zone which matches the EC2 instance, availability zone. So yeah, I'll have to check which availability zone is it part of. It's all 1A. Okay. So cool. I can go with this. I will say 5 GB here. US East one is fine. There is no snapshot at the moment, so just ignore that. I am just creating a fresh volume, right? You can also encrypt this volume, okay, with a key. if you have one. So yes, all your EBS volumes can be encrypted, which means only only the server or the instance, when the key is available, they will be able to decrypt the data. So if someone tries to look at your EBS volume and try to attach it to his instance and maybe try to read the EBS volume, he won't be able to read it because he needs the key in order to read. Okay, again, more about KMS. There's a service called AWS Key Management Service. So we will be discussing more about that when we get selecting any encryption part in a later service.
Uh, I cannot hear
We'll
you.
talk more about that when we get selecting any encryption. Maybe come like this. Yes.
I cannot hear you properly.
How about now?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay now.
O- Okay, now cool. Okay. So yeah, what I was saying is we will be discussing about the encryption part in a later service. So we will then talk more about it. But you can encrypt an EBS volume. Okay. So I'm
We
giving the
can create
name
a
as
volume from snapshot.
yes. Yeah, I will talk about that when we discuss about snapshots.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, just 5 GB general purpose SSD, 1 availability zone. This is the name of the volume. Say create volume.
One last thing. Okay, that 100 into 3000. Could you please one more time explain that 3000 burst available time? 3000.
So every volume, right, EBS volume has baseline performance and burst performance. Okay, baseline performance is what you get in case of GP2, general purpose SSD EBS type. The
Right.
base performance can go up to 3000 IOPS. Okay. Now, if you want to go beyond 3000 IOPS, right, you have your credit. Remember that bucket, credit bucket. So the IOPS will
Yeah.
be used from that bucket. So if you consistently, if you're hitting 5,000 IOPS, that is 5,000 reads or writes per second, the balance 2,000 is used from your credit bucket. Now that is assuming that you have a minimum of 1 TB capacity because for every GB, you're getting a baseline performance of 3 IOPS. So in order to get a consistent 3,000 IOPS, you need to buy 1 TB. So when you buy 1 TB minimum, you'll get 3000 IOPS as a baseline performance. Now, if you want to go beyond that, right, you can still use, but you can only use what is available in your burst bucket. If you exhaust your burst bucket, it won't allow you more than 3000. You're maxed out at that.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you have 500 GB, 500 into 3 is 1500. You can only have a baseline performance of 1500 IOPS. You cannot use more than that. You can up to what is available in your burst bucket, but if that is exhausted, 1500 is what you can use. You can't go beyond that. Clear?
Here 100 divided 100 oblique 3000. So we have selected 300 GB here for size.
I've selected 5 GB, so by default, they give you 100 IOPS.
Okay.
But the calculation is once you go past 33.3 GB, let's say you select 35 GB, it's into 3. So 105 IOPS you get. Minimum anything below 33.3 GB, they're giving you 100 IOPS for free.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
for
why you see
100
100.
IOPS, the burst time is always 3000 because 100 into
No. That 3000 is saying out of 3000 baseline IOPS, you are only getting 100.
but
3000 is the
where
max you
comes
can go.
3000 came from where? I'm saying for from the
That's
size
the
limitation.
No, that's the baseline performance max that AWS has set for the general purpose SSD disk type.
Irrespective of size.
Based on the size, right? Per GB, it is 3 IOPS.
Right.
So, Okay, here's the deal. Hear me out. Um, Multiple rules here, right? Rule number one: for every 1 GB of general purpose SSD, for every 1 GB of general purpose SSD, Amazon gives you 3 IOPS.
Right.
But minimum, they give you 100 IOPS. Even if you select 2 GB, they give you 100 IOPS. Free. Are we clear?
Right. Minimum they are giving
Okay.
100 IOPS.
Okay. You're clear?
Right.
Okay. Now, let's say you buy 500 GB. 500 into 3 is how much?
1500.
1500. Right? So they're giving you 1500 IOPS baseline performance. Like that, like that. Now, let's say you bought 5 terabyte. What do you expect? 5000 into 3. How much?
15,000 IOPS should be
But
there
they will not give you 15,000 IOPS. They will say baseline, our max baseline is 3000 only.
for general purpose SSD.
Yes. Our max baseline for general purpose SSD is 3000 only. We will not give you 15,000 baseline. At the max, we can only give you 3000
At
baseline.
the max, we are giving only 3000, irrespective of the size, I'm saying. Right? Again.
Max, yes.
That's if you are selecting 10 TB, it will give 3000 max.
Baseline, yes.
Yeah.
But
You can
more
get it
the
from the
size you pay,
bucket.
more the size you pay, your bucket burst, your bucket burst will be larger. Because, for example, you are paying for 10 TB, right, versus 1 TB. For 9 TB, there will be more burst IOPS that will be accumulated in your bucket because you bought bigger size. So you can use from your bucket. Anything beyond the baseline is used from your bucket. Not following?
We have used, for example, 10 TB we have purchased. So 10 TB into means 10,000 into 3. In our bucket, we have 13,000 IOPS, right?
30,000, yes.
But for general purpose SSD, the criteria is 3000.
3000 baseline. So there is baseline plus burst.
Yeah, so 3000 is the baseline, so we can credit from that bucket 27.
Exactly.
We can take from that 30,000. We can take as much we want.
No, again, there's a limit. There's a limit
Yeah,
that you can only go up to 16,000 IOPS per volume in
right,
GP2. You can't go beyond that.
right, right.
So even
Now
though
we
you
are
have
getting.
so much burst available, you still can't use 30,000 IOPS. I mean, 30,000 reads writes per second. You can't do. You can only do 16,000 reads writes per second because that's the max again.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So here's the volume, right? 5 GB that we created, GP2 100 IOPS. It says available. So I can select it, actions, and say attach volume. Now I would like to attach it to the Windows AWS. Now you can, change the device name if you want, but it's just, giving the next available name. Just go with that. Attach. So now, if I go to my Windows server, let me reshare again. We should see that as a raw disk. Let's go to disk management. Okay, see this? 5 GB raw disk is available. So all you have to do is make it online, initialize it, MBR partition is okay, simple volume, assign a drive letter, D drive is fine, finish. So now you have your D drive. There you go. You can also expand a EBS volume. So let's work on that. So right now it's 5 GB, right? Let's say I want to increase it to 10 GB. So you can click on actions, select the volume, say modify volume. Now make this 10 GB. Say modify. So as you can see here, it says it may take some time for performance changes to take full effect. You may need to extend the OS file system on the volume to use any new allocated space. That means on the OS side, depending upon which OS you're talking and what are the procedures for that OS, you may have to do those in order to reflect this addition because it won't be automatic, right? All it is doing is it is increasing from storage side, not from the OS side. So say yes. Now it should 5 GB, right? Now if I refresh, it should turn into 10 GB, 10 GB. Now let's go back to our Windows server. And you will see that, oops, where is this? Yeah. So let me do a rescan. See, 5 GB additional space is showing as unallocated. Now I can right click here. So right click here and say extend volume. Next. So that's the additional disk. Next. Finish. Now it's 10 GB. Now let's refresh here as well. 10 GB. So depending upon the OS type, you'll have to do those respective steps in order to extend the file systems or the drives. So yeah, you can expand the volume on the fly from the EBS standpoint, without any downtime. That's another key important thing that AWS is providing. What else? What else on the EBS?
Mahi,
Yeah.
I have created Linux instance, and I have created two volumes, one volume for root and one other for data. When I use the df-h command, I can see only one volume, that is root. I cannot see the data volume. Is that
Because
case with
it's not
Linux?
formatted yet, right? You have to format it. That's from AWS you created, right?
Okay, means so I have to mount that volume, or I have to
You have to first
create
create
a
the
mount point
partition.
and
You have to create a physical volume, or you have to
okay.
basically create a file system out of it. What is the OS?
Yeah, I have to create a partition. Yeah, fdisk, that's layout is svdb, xvdb,
Correct,
and then I have to create partition out of that, and I have to mount that part.
correct.
Okay, that's the reason.
Do a ls SCSI, and you should see the disk, or fdisk space -l, and you should see the disk. Just make
Yeah,
sure you
yeah,
see
yeah.
the disk first.
LSKZ always, but I will check and get back to you.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
to confirm, for
Yes.
general purpose SSD, the burst level is 3000, right? Irrespective of size, 1 TB, 10 TB. The baseline is
Baseline.
3000, correct?
But no. But if you create a 100 GB volume, you'll only get 100 into 300 IOPS as a baseline. Only if you go beyond 1 TB, it's same. You can't go beyond 3000. But
But
below 1
when
TB, it
we
is
have
always into 3.
but when you have created a volume of 5 GB here, it is giving 3000. So where it comes from 3000?
No, it didn't give 3000. See, look at this.
Yeah, it is giving 100/3000. It is giving.
That means out of the 3000 baseline, 100 is only what you're getting. 3000 is the
Yeah,
maximum
but
baseline I
where?
can give you.
Okay, okay.
Look at this. Here it
Because
says
that
100
size
only,
is,
right? So you're only getting 100. The
so
3000
that's my
is, they
question.
just are showing you there, Dhyan. It's just that they want to show you that 3000 is the max that you can get out of a GP2 volume baseline performance. It's just showing you that. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
you're
3000 is the
getting it.
max, right? Out of that 3000, only 100. The reason of 100 is it is because less than 100 GB.
Less than 33.3 GB.
Sorry, less than 33.3 GB.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I suppose have created a 150 GB of volume, then what is that uh, combination?
Into 3.
150. So the max will be 1500 or 3000 here.
Okay. So if you create a 150 GB volume, right? The baseline
Right,
performance is calculated as the size of GB into 3 if it is less than 1
right,
TB. So you'll get a baseline performance for that volume of only 450 IOPS. That
right.
will be the
450
baseline
IOPS,
performance for that 150 GB volume.
450 oblique 3000. That is the ratio, right?
No, 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 no. Remove 3000. Forget about 3000. You are only getting a baseline performance of 450 IOPS for that 150 GB volume.
Out of
For-
3000, I'm saying.
Forget 3000.
Because it's
Don't get
showing
3000.
3000 when we create a why I'm saying 3000, the reason behind when we create a volume, it is showing not only showing the IOPS, it is showing the ratio
No, no,
100
no.
oblique
It is
3000.
not. It is not ratio, Dhyanesh. It is telling you that because you could
Maximum.
be a person who you don't know that Triton was their max. You don't know because you are new to AWS. You don't know, right? So it is showing you that, hey, how much ever size you create, but I can give you a baseline of maximum 3000. Now it's up to you. You want to create 10 terabyte, 1 terabyte, 150 GB. But the max baseline I can give you is only 3000. That is what it's telling you. It is not the ratio,
Yeah. But its value, if I have created a volume of 150 GB, then it
right?
will also show 450 slash 3000,
No,
correct?
no, 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 no.
Could you please show me?
Look at this. Look at this. What does the IOPS column show?
I
Is
am
it saying
almost seeing the
100
screen
slash
of that.
3000?
No,
We
I
cannot
can
Oh,
see.
see the
okay.
screen of Windows machine. Yeah.
Okay, let me share this. So if you look at the IOPS column here, what does it say?
It's 100
100 slash
IOPS.
3000 or 100, right?
No,
Now does it
go
make
to the
sense?
create volume screen wizard.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, here.
Mm-hmm.
Size is 150. Please provide
Okay.
size as
Let's do
150.
150. Okay.
Yeah, that's I am showing that 450 out of 300 it will show.
Correct. But this is telling you that, hey, for general purpose SSD, the maximum baseline performance is 3000 IOPS. That doesn't mean that you'll get 3000. If you want to get
Yeah,
3000, give 1000 here.
right, right. It will not show. Give 10,000. Or check just for testing purpose. Maximum 16,000.
Yeah,
Because beyond that it cannot reach. That is the general purpose
exactly.
SSD limit 16,000.
Correct. Similarly, for your
Now consider this
provisioned IOPS,
provision.
it is six. Like you see that, right? Basically, you can go beyond it. But
Right.
yeah, here you have the option to provide IOPS as well. Actually, you can provide IOPS, like how much IOPS you want. You can go up to 64,000. So even though I have, let's say, 1,000, right? I can say 30,000. So in case of provisioned IOPS, you can actually define that, hey, I need these many IOPS. You can set the expected IOPS value here in case of provision. That's why it's called provisioned, is something that you are providing. you'll be charged accordingly. So even though you have 1000 GB, it doesn't mean that you're only charged for 1000 GB. You're also charged for the additional IOPS that you are asking.
And
Because for
when will be
1000
the
GB,
credit? When will be the credit that it will be used? It will be used automatically, or we have to do some take picks here?
uh, so credit is not available for provision, right? It is only available for the other
No,
three.
no, I'm talking about general purpose.
So in this case, so you get 3000 IOPS, right? As an example. But will you use 3000 IOPS every second? Maybe not, right?
No.
So let's say you're only using 2000 IOPS every second. So the remaining 1000 IOPS which you have paid for, but you're not using, will be credited,
Right.
right? So that is your credit, which you paid for, but you haven't used.
And and when we go beyond like 3000, that time that credit will deduct, right?
Absolutely.
And is there any
Right.
validity how long that credit will be stay or something?
Uh, there's no time validity because your volume, until the time your volume is available, your credit will be available. But there is a max bucket size that your credit. I think there's
Mhm.
some millions of IOPS that only you can store. You cannot go beyond that. I mean, the bucket cannot be unlimited size.
Okay. Because in that way, like bucket will keep on increasing because we are not using that every time
Correct.
maximum.
Exactly. Exactly. So they won't give you unlimited bucket sizes. I think 5.4 million, I guess, if I remember it right. So they only allow you certain limited number of IOPS to be stored in the credit.
Mahi, what kind of questions generally asked on EC2 services in the that AWS certification?
Let's finish the service and then maybe we can talk more about it.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. I thought it's finished. I thought. Sorry.
No, still have a few concepts. Okay, guys. I think we are at 9:30. Um, yeah, today I have to leave a little early. Tomorrow we can spend a little more time. So yeah, the few more concepts left here around snapshots and how does backup restore work um, with EBS and EC2. And then we'll talk about load balancers and auto scaling. So a few more things
Yeah,
are
Mahi,
left here.
we will do the
Yes.
practical and we'll get back to you if there is there any doubt.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we will cover tomorrow with the EC2 section. So yeah, you'll have time the entire next week to practice.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
guys. So
Thank you.
tomorrow we are meeting at our regular time, 8 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Mahi.
All right.
Okay. Have a nice
Okay.
day.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Mhm.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.